probably explodes.
You plug in.
So today we're jumping back into a project that is a lot of people's favorite, and that is the formerly known as Spracelet, but I'm trying out a new name, WEB or WEB. That's Wrist Ejection Bracelet. Inside this bracelet, there is a pressure vessel to contain some kind of fluid that can be pressurized, and it has a trigger and it has a valve that can be actuated by a motor, so it's electronically actuated. Now, the main thing that's keeping this device from basically reaching your shelves is usability. How did I put it in the last video? What I have right now, really good as a research tool, but it's not ready for consumer use yet. If I sold this, you'd be like, how do I use it? And I'd be like, here's 1,000 steps. And you'd be like, I don't want this. So Damien and I are working on a lot of the usability stuff, but what I'm working on and what I'll be discussing briefly today is the idea of adjustability. This is a very rigid bracelet, so it was super easy to make like a one-size-fits-all version, except what ends up happening because it's rigid is one size doesn't fit all. So today I'll be talking about my ideas and solutions for that issue, as well as a few other improvements. So in order to make this bracelet adjustable, I came up with a couple different solutions. The first thing I thought about was elasticity. If this bracelet is able to stretch around its circumference in some parts of it, right, because some parts have to be rigid, it could be like a snug and comfortable fit. The only question is, will the elastic be able to exert enough force on the arm such that when you shake your arm, it doesn't like shake around? And so I came up with essentially like a new kind of bistable spring that could be useful for something like this. And it basically uses like a chain of magnets. I used my classic technique of printing magnets inside a 3D print and did that with flexible filament, and you get this kind of zigzag shape made of magnets. Okay, so here is that magnet zigzag, and it does act as a spring, but it's called bistable because this is a stable configuration, right? It wants to return to this configuration. But if you pull it, at some point, the force will break down, and then suddenly over here, it's not exerting as much force on me, right? It's pretty free to move over here. There's a little bit of tension that way, but the force massively increases when the magnets get close to each other. So we're gonna go ahead and attach a force gauge to this and see how it looks. So first of all, with a load like this, you can see it's stable in this configuration, but also in this configuration. Stable, stable. So I'm just gonna go ahead and check essentially the breakdown force of this bistable spring. So what's cool about this force gauge is that you can actually set peak so that it'll only measure the peak amount. So it's about 4 newtons, 4.8 newtons, okay? 5 newtons. So we've got about 5 newtons of breakdown force, a half a kilogram to like about a pound. So now we get to one of the other improvements that I'm interested in doing on the web, the electronics. And that brings us to the sponsor of this video, PCBWay. Now, previous versions of the web used this blue PCB, which I call the ARC controller, and it was powered by 2 of these 3.7 volt LiPos in series. So the supply voltage was intended to be 7.4 volts. And it worked pretty good. The valve actuation was, really sound. I didn't notice any problems with it. And then I found out by doing some tests with Charlotte that this PCB actually has an error in its design, and that is that the motor driver, which is this chip here, is being supplied with the digital voltage on the board, 3.3 volts, and the supply voltage is not being applied to this motor driver at all. The motors that come out of these ports are actually only getting 3.3 volts. But I didn't notice this problem with the web, which means that 3.3 volts is enough to actuate the valve, which is in agreement with some previous simulations and tests I'd done. So I came up with a redesigned version of the ARC controller that's super nice with this purple solder mask here, and this has the motor driver connected correctly. But what this means is that now the motors are getting the supply voltage of the battery, and because we know that the web works properly with motors being actuated with 3.3 volts, I just need a single 3.7 volt LiPo, and that can cut down a lot on the bulk and the complexity of the design. But there's a slight mistake here, because if I want the supply voltage to be 3.7 volts, that creates a problem for the 5-volt regulator on board that is meant to supply the rest of the components. So let me show you what I mean here. So if this is our battery and it has a positive side, negative side, and this is 3.7 volts. And inside of our ARC controller, we have the supply voltage, and that goes into a 5-volt regulator. And so out here we expect 5 volts. That goes into 3-volt regulator for the 3.3 volt digital supply voltage. And out there we expect 3.3 volts. And then that goes into the chip on board, which is the SAMD21. Now we also expect the supply voltage to go to the H bridge, the motor driver. What we're hoping to do with this design, we connect the 3.7 volts right to supply voltage so that our motors will get 3.37 volts, and that's enough to make this device work. But then we have a problem. This 5-volt voltage regulator here is a buck converter or a step-down converter, meaning that the input voltage has to be higher than the output voltage for it to work. So if this is 3.7 volts, this is not going to work. This whole rest of the system is just going to shut down. But if the 3.3 volt regulator were to be supplied with the 3.7 volt battery voltage, it would still work. So we can just apply that 3.7 volts to the output of the 5-volt regulator, or the input to the 3.3 volt regulator, and everything works. Except sometimes, right, we're gonna have 5 volts attached here, because this is downstream via a diode of the USB bus voltage. So when we're plugged into USB-C, whether for charging or for programming, this is going to be an unsolvable circuit, because we're going to have a 3.7 volt battery given 5 volts from USB, and it's going to backcharge the battery, and it's going to be a problem, and it probably explodes. I don't know, something like that. But all I have to do is add another component, a single component, such that the battery will never get backcharged, and that is to add another diode. Okay, so let me show you what this looks like in real life. So as an example, here is Charlotte, and Charlotte has the ARC controller connected. If we plug in 5 volts to the input power, which is this port here, so we have the countdown that we looked at a couple weeks ago, and then she starts walking, right? But what happens if we turn the voltage down to 3.7? So let's see, 3.8? We've got nothing. 3.8 volts is not high enough to make the 5-volt regulator output 5 volts, right? You can't really expect that to be the case. So let's implement that circuit that we talked about, and that is set up here. We want the motors to be able to run at 3.7 volts, which should be allowed by the motor driver. So we want to plug 3.7 volts straight into here. And the 3.7 volts isn't high enough to overcome the 5-volt regulator, so we need to plug in the 3.7 volts directly into the 5 volts port, and that's in this port here. And we have a diode going between those two. If the USB-C port is being powered on, applying 5 volts to that port, it can't backflow into the power supply, which will be a battery, and that would be very bad. So that's what this diode is doing here. If we plug this in, this is indicating USB power is on. We have very slow walking. because it's essentially now just applying the digital 3.3 volts to the motor driver. So now I'm gonna hook up the 3.7 volts that you see here. And you can see we get a countdown, but the LED is a little bit dim. What we're applying to the 3.3 volt regulator is about 3 volts because the backwards voltage on this diode is pretty high. It's about like 0.7 to 1 volt. So we're applying like 2.9, 3.1 volts to the input of the 3.3 volt regulator. It still can manage to produce the voltage because it's not that much lower. And so you'll see that this still works when we plug in the 5 volts here. The LED comes on. We get a little extra brightness because we get a little extra oomph. Now we have 5 volts going into the 3.3 volt regulator instead of like 3 volts. Everything still works properly. So this diode is the key. This light means the USB-C power has been inserted and still works when we disconnect USB-C power. And when we turn it off and connect USB-C power, it still works just like normal. So this is how we get 2 different power supplies to work at the same time, even though they're different voltages. This single diode solves all of my issues, so that will certainly be implemented. All I have to do is put an extra diode in the device somewhere. Whether you need CNC machining or surface mount PCB manufacturing or even really high quality 3D printing services, PCBWay is your one-stop shop for rapid prototyping. Make sure you click the link in the description below for $5 off their amazing services. So overall, I think this is a pretty cool invention, and just like whoop. So you can see it has a pretty compact shape when it's perfectly compressed. My hope was to basically fit this into the bracelet somewhere around there. But after trying, I just couldn't come up with anything. My hope was to have like multiple different parts come together and kind of like be able to like collapse together and extend. There's a couple different versions of this, right? I eventually settled on having just 2 parts come together, kind of like this. The angle at which these 2 come together kind of determines the aspect ratio of the change. How much does it change in height and how much does it change in width? Coming up with an angle of about 34 degrees seemed to be about right based on measurements between my wrist and my girlfriend's wrist. So I tried to fit this into the bracelet. It didn't quite work. Eventually I went for a much more simple ratcheting mechanism. And getting the tolerances right for this on 3D printing was pretty difficult because it's still kind of small, but eventually I got something that worked pretty well. So this is probably the most compact version that I have thus far, and I'm anticipating it to be like that. This is just a mock-up, but I'm anticipating that because battery is going to get a lot smaller. Here is the mock-up of the adjustable version. Firstly, I want to point out that it still has that hinge that the last version had. Instead of one setting, it's got like a bunch of different teeth here. This part rotates with respect to this part, which can slide back and forth along those guides there. Now, what happens is when you hook this in here, push on both of these things here, and you can adjust it like that. So essentially along this angle, that's that 34-degree angle I was talking about before. Yeah, I really like the way this thing works. It's got essentially 9 different settings, but I can put it on the same way as before. Just hook it in like that, and I can tighten it to my needs. So there's my setting. And take it off. Still needs a little bit of work. Now it's much better for people who have smaller wrists, bigger wrists as well, a little bit bigger wrist. I can't believe people have wrists this small. It's actually crazy. I think there's going to be a spring eventually so that when you push this down, it automatically like springs back up. Some of the tolerances need to be adjusted, but right now, I think it's a good place to start. And it's fun to fidget with too. Can see it can resist quite a bit of force here. So there's my solution for the adjustability of the web. So there's going to be a couple more episodes about the web device until the end of the year. But I hope you enjoyed this really brief start at how we're trying to get this device to be as usable as possible, as intuitive as possible, as general, as versatile. That's really important to me. Now, one of the next improvements I'll implement is something I'll call pivoting the pivot. Originally, the lever mechanism that provides the mechanical advantage to actuate the valve from a DC motor had some issues with deforming in unintended directions, so it wasn't super reliable. Sometimes the lever would twist and turn and it wouldn't be able to actuate the valve. What I realized is that the pivot of this lever is not in an ideal position because it's not on the line between the point of action and the load point. So I think fixing that is my next step. I think that's going to solve the issue, but I don't know for sure. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more, leave a like, comment. If you're subscribed, turn on notifications. And until next time, stay safe, stay amazing, and I'll see you guys in like a week, I think.